Hello and welcome to Kamilla Singh show. Thank you all for tuning in. But before we start the show, we always take this moment. As you all know, September 30th, Truth and Reconciliation Day is coming up. And it's not a vacation or a state holiday for all of us. It's a day to reflect and all the injustices, to reflect back and know what the injustices have been done to the first people of this land. So take a moment. On the 30th, there's a huge rally happening at Holland Park. Please go and participate in that and be an ally to First Nations. And we also acknowledge the First Nations land that we are on. They allowed us to be on this land, to live, laugh, and grow. Thank you. On the other note, I also want to acknowledge today, September 24th, when this day we are doing the recording, Yom Kippur Day.
Yom Kippur?
Yeah, yes. And it is one of the holiest day in the Jewish calendar for the Jewish community all over the world. It's a day of reflection for them. They don't march, they don't rally, it's very peaceful. They look inside them, what they have done for the whole year, what changes can they make. So happy Yom Kippur Day to all our Jewish friends and family and all of you that believe in that. I think we all should believe in that. Having said all that, we should move on to our political panel and talk about the issues that are going on in our city, all over Canada, everywhere else. With my extreme left is Eileen Mohan. She has been here before, activist. You have seen her before, fighting for the human rights or justice for her son. And next to her is Annie Ohana. She's a high school teacher, activist, organizer, and advocate. So they're back on the panel, and we're going to be talking about some of the issues that have taken place last week and is ongoing. So welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Be able to take a Sunday off and be able to come to in such a short notice and talk about the issues that we are faced with today. So there are a couple of issues that we want to talk about. One is Soji that took place, the protest rallies that took place, I think, a week ago, but it hasn't gone anywhere. People are still talking about that. That's one issue we're going to be talking about. The second issue, we also want to acknowledge Ryan O'Brien that was killed on call of duty in Coquitlam while he had a warrant to go into somebody's house. And he was shot and killed. And there were 2 RCMP officers who were injured, but they are all right. But we have lost a person on duty, which is RCMP officers. So my heart goes out to all the RCMP police, law enforcement. They put their life on line every morning. They go to do the work. So please we want to acknowledge that. And so and the second thing that is brewing everywhere is Trudeau's announcement about what has happened with Harjit Singh Nijjar, who was shot dead at the Gurdwara. So where do you want to start? These are 2 very, very burning issues that we all are talking about. So
I'll let Eileen choose, but can I say thank you for acknowledging Orange Shirt Day and Truth and Reconciliation Week? And I'm a Sephardic Jew, so I'm about to start fasting tonight, so just thank you for acknowledging Yom Kippur as well. But please choose.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll start with Soji.
Soji?
Yeah.
Okay, yes. Okay, let's talk about Soji then. A week ago, then we had protest. I think this protest is called 1 million.
1 million for children.
For children. And this protest was all over Canada. It's not like BC or Surrey. It was all over Canada, and it's rights of the youth. The teachers, I think, is organized by the Teachers Association as far as I know, and maybe
The counter-protest was.
Yeah,
The
okay.
1 million for children was by parents.
Okay. So anyhow, thank you. So we are going to talk about that, and I want you to give a little background about this day then.
Yeah, so there is it's not a curriculum, it's not a module, it's more of a way of being, as it were, in terms of SOGI, which stands for Sexual Orientation, Gender Identity. That was launched quite a few years ago now. It's I remember in 2014, kind of discussions were underway. The leader of the BC United Liberal Party, Kevin Falcon, had mentioned where it started. So there's a lot of questions about that. There are concerns by parents in terms of how it's being taught, where it's being taught, etc. So that's been going on for many years, these questions. And so there was a national day by different organizations, is my understanding, some national ones, some local ones, to have. It wasn't every city in Canada, but it was quite a few, to kind of have their voice heard on that issue. And yes, so teachers and other groups, queer community, labor unions, others did plan counter protests to that on Wednesday.
Oh, so it happened. So
I'm telling you, this is such a divisive issue.
Mm.
And what we're discussing today is such a divisive, all of them, very divisive issue.
Yeah.
You know, when LGBT rights were introduced at the federal government, they were given equal rights to go and get married and everything. So that kind of stayed at the federal level. It didn't trickle down to the mums and dads and children and everything. And it was so acceptable at that time because we all said, you know, you choose who you want to love,
yes.
right? And who you want as your life partner. That didn't come in between of anybody. And I think as a public, as a society, as the world, we all accepted that. And then when now it's trickling down into public life, and I feel like each parent has a right to know what their children are learning in school.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe innocence at the first, I was quite very innocent when I went to grade 1 to grade 8. I accepted everybody. In school, I knew there was some different people, but we all got together. And I went to a Catholic school. In a Catholic school, we had Hindus and Muslims who came to the Catholic school because they wanted that type of education.
As a private school, yeah.
And when they sat in the classroom, they accepted to say the Our Father, the Hail Mary. They learned the sign of the cross. They learned the hymns. And because it was a choice, they parents made a choice to send their children to a Catholic school. There was no upright about that. And we all kind of got together and got well. But I believe, my personal belief is, I have so many friends in the LGBT community. I've worked with people. I integrate with people of that culture, and I respect them. But I feel parents need to have a choice of what their children learn. And if they're given the choice, and I have respect on both sides, and I want to acknowledge, like, I'm a Catholic, and I don't go and say in a public school to say, oh, you must teach the Roman Catholic values and blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, we have to respect each other's value as we move on, because life is too short. We cannot, I cannot go and shove my Roman Catholic values down your throat. You've been a Hindu. You can't come and shove your values down my throat. But as a Catholic, I celebrate Diwali, and I fast for 40 days in April when our Good Friday comes. So, and everybody celebrates, have a Good Friday, has a stat holiday. So I think we all must collectively come together to understand each other and give each other space and rights as to what each and every parent wants.
So having said all that, where do the parents stand? Do you think this decision or this choice, if the children are not comfortable going to their parents, okay, I'll tell you one thing. If you steal something, if you are caught stealing in Bay or any other store or whatever, the cops gonna come and they will say, they're gonna call the parents. They'll take the kids to the parents' house and they say, your child, talk to them. This is what has happened. So parents have that much right until you turn 18 years old. So what is happening right now in schools, if the child doesn't feel comfortable to go talk about sexuality to the parents and they are more comfortable with the counselor and with the school, is that not acceptable if they disclosing their very vulnerable position to somebody else who's not going to be judged or they're not going to be judged?
Well, that's what counselors are for in school, is to make a student comfortable in whatever they come to
Under
bring.
their own skin or in their own body.
Exactly. And in a school level, no one is treated unequal. And I've been around. In a school level, no one is treated unequal. So if I still believe that we should leave the innocents in the schoolyard as they are. And everybody should have a choice in what they want to do.
Okay. So now I'll ask you the question.
Yeah.
At what grade,
Yeah.
when your children are in school, these SOGI books and all this are introduced or
So
something?
I mean,
it's
no, it's
not
okay.
a-
Don't worry.
yeah.
There's a lot of confusion about language right now.
Yeah.
I have to say, I think we agree on a lot of points, and so I'll just start a little bit so I can get to your answer. First of all, I'm 12 years into my teaching career. I have a master's in equity studies, criminology, political science, a lot of different areas. I work at all levels of curriculum development, pedagogy, all kinds of things. I've won national awards, everything. So just as a resume check, if people want to know where this is coming from.
Yeah.
One point of clarification, speaking on behalf of the queer community, sorry, I don't mean to say that, they just generally like Shaw Vancouver, Surrey Pride, because I have permission to talk on their behalf, is that, again, we can differ in opinion on this, but sexual orientation, gender identity are not choices, okay? So this is where maybe the age issue comes in, because we don't think children are making choices. A child who is heterosexual, an adult, they are born that way, right? They are always born that way. Someone who transitions later in life, they are born that way. I don't disagree that you are born in the body you're born in, right? And that's something that people think we disagree on when really we don't. I'm more critical of my profession. I grew up at a time when LGBTQ kids were discriminated, when they were outed forcefully, when bullying was allowed by teachers. We remember there was a young man, I'm sorry, I don't remember the date, it was in the 90s. He unfortunately committed suicide off the Lions Gate Bridge after his teachers and his student, and the teachers did not stop it, called him gay slurs. He was not gay. And it was so hard for him that he took his life. I believe he was 14. I stand to be corrected. So that's just one story. I've lost students when they were not able to be themselves. So I think that has to be taken into account, in terms of like child protection, child health, child well-being. Many teachers have seen this reality. Students cutting themselves in bathrooms, seeking help. And then when we say, I can promise you this, anytime, we always ask about the family. So does mom and dad know, right? And yes, once in a while, perhaps much too more often than we would like, the child gets so nervous and says, you can't. They're going to kick me out of the house. They're going to do this. And we have evidence of this. The police will tell you. We have homeless rates that unfortunately are quite high in terms of the queer population because they're not allowed to stay within the communities that they are born into. And this is all communities, like all faiths, all whatever, right? So to your question, I think this is where we get into real nuance, and this is where I love having the conversations. When you're talking about elementary school, I guess an example I can give is that a SOGI book, and again, there's no such thing, but like a book about family might include the inclusion of, a gay couple. Okay? Because under the law, yes, in Canada since 2005, queer folks or same-sex couples are allowed to be married, right? As it gets older, things shift. So as a high school teacher, for example, when I teach about Alan Turing, who solved the Enigma code during World War II, people might not know that he was this world hero for ending World War II 2 years early, but then went on to unfortunately be chemically castrated by the UK, because until 1969, being homosexual was was illegal in Canada, in America, in the UK. Eleanor Sturko, the MLA, has a wonderful story. Wonderful, not wonderful.
Yeah.
A story about her uncle who was purged. So people can look up the gay purge. So this would be something we talk about in schools. The legal structures in place. So I believe it goes back way further. We used to have LGBTQ people under the DSM as mental conditions, where people were thrown in jail, lost jobs. I even have the horrific story, we have it, it's on the record, of 18-year-old women joining our military, wanting to serve their country, and then being sexually assaulted by fellow soldiers to correct who they were. So unfortunately, all of these stories are there, and part of SOGI is to allow the diversity and the equality to truly be there. I want to make it clear that SOGI and sex ed are two different things, that we are not sexualizing children by any means. And if a child, and yes, usually parents are involved, but when I've had children, teenagers come to me, the first thought is, I am scared. And certainly for trans kids I've dealt with, there is no pushing of puberty blockers. There is no pushing of harm to their bodies. In fact, there's a delay. You can look up Trans Care BC, and there's medical health checks, mental health checks, counselors, psychologists. In BC and Canada, we have very strict requirements when somebody even suggests such a thing, right? And usually it's like gender dysphoria is where it starts. So at the end of the day, and very importantly, if there was one message I could send out, please parents know that it is in our profession, it is mandated to us that we must tell parents what we are teaching. So letters will go out, right? When we have the idea, please check course outlines. Many teachers send those home. Some kids don't give it to their parents. But in course outlines, especially me, mine is like 8 pages long, and you can see every single topic that we will be covering. And yeah, and I have not a lot. Once in a blue moon, a student will say, my parents don't allow me to learn this. I feel this is a sin. I feel this is evil. And those kids are given alternate assignments to be worked out with adult supervision in the office, in the library, whatever, like somewhere that's safe. I actually have told just one story without giving any names, a Muslim child that said that. I was like, absolutely. They actually stayed in the class to learn about the legal aspects, which I appreciated that, to learn what the Human Rights Code was, etc. But when it came, there was something else that came up. And so I asked the child, because I don't know a lot about the Quran, even though I'm an Arabic Jew, I haven't read the entire thing. I asked them to explore that topic and to come back to me to teach, us, how the Quran speaks to these issues. I wanted to know more. And so that was the assignment. I asked them to delve into their beliefs. Educate me and tell me what your parents are saying, because I am legitimately curious. I appreciated that child made it clear that if they saw a child getting beat up, if they saw a child being harmed or called names or whatever, because they identified as something other than male, female, whatever, that they would tell somebody. And I thought, because that's what the Human Rights Code says. As a teacher, I have to protect all. And that gender identity is not queerness. You have a gender, I have a gender. I assume we're all cis women, right? I believe in that. I want women to be protected, because I've been harmed as a woman for my gender. We still talk about gender equality in our schools. We still have to make sure that boys and girls are treated equally. That's under gender identity in the human rights section. So I think it's actually about human rights. And certainly, we don't want to sexualize children too early. We don't want to put them out there in a different way. And if there are situations like that, there is... we can have our licenses stripped. There have been many cases, many people can look up, like every month they publish a list of teachers and the wrongdoing. And there have been cases where teachers have been inappropriate and therefore dealt with. So I think it's more of a conversation more than anything else. But I do believe there is some misinformation. And coming from someone that has been called, that has been defamed, that has seen slander and libel thrown their way to the point where police are involved, lawyers are involved, all kinds of people are involved, because it crossed the line. I have no problem as a teacher being told, leave my children alone. Okay, why, how, let's talk about it. But once it crosses the line into the personal safety of anybody, that's when like I would never want a child that doesn't believe in this to be bullied by children that whatever, right, just don't have the same views. Certainly I don't believe in that either. So I think the protest, Charter of Rights and Freedoms, yes, counter-protest is protected by the freedom to associate, right? So people were kind of questioning that. At the end of the day, the parents, the people that came out, we were all there legitimately. At the STA, we stood on our property. We own that property. So we did not go on the sidewalk or the roadway. We stayed within our property rights, which is also protected under the law, and the police enforce that as well. So this is a very big issue. And I want to finish by saying, please reach out to us. Please, if you hear something from someone, okay, bring it in, right? Let's have a discussion. I would never say that a parent was abusing their child because someone said, oh, that parent abuses their child. I would investigate. I would learn more. I would find out. And in the worst case scenario, we have a duty to report. You report to the ministry as counselors. There's a literal list. Yes, we would do that. We don't call the parents first in that case because we worry. If they go home and we've had it, kids then show up the next day covered in bruises, crying. Why did you tell my family? Just report cards. Why did you tell my family? I got a phone call that I was away, but I wasn't. My dad screamed at me for hours, right? So the parental rights situation is one that, yes, parents have rights, and there's a legal framework within those rights fall under.
Well, I would just want to say another thing is that we should not bring each and every parent in this decision. There are parents who are open-minded and who essentially think that at this age, from grade 1 to grade 8 or grade 6, whatever the grade is, that the students have the inability to make a choice for themselves or decide what they want to do and what they don't want to do. And not like if you look at the population in general, in public schools, in private schools, look at the population of students who allocate themselves as LGBT and non-LGBT students. And I think what the parents are trying to, and I mean, I speak to parents, and parents, we all talk. And what they don't want to do is that just because there's a handful of students, just like if you have a handicapped student in school, they're given special attention, they have a special need, and all the normal students go and help them, take them out. And it happened in my school. We all help out and sometimes we feed them or we help them go to the washroom. Everybody's been given a turn who wants to help. We ask who do want to be friends with this person. So in school, that's the I think the mindset is, what's the population in a school of a student population that we are introducing this subject? Is the population 50-50, 75-50, or 75-30, or 99-1%, or 95-5%? So, you have to weigh the balances before we indulge into this, because parents think that the majority of the students respect another student, because we're in the 21st century. You expect that another student is different. But there is a handful of students who choose not to do that, who are troublemakers, who end up in front of and these are the handful of students who abuse other students, who are not like them. So, we have to sit down and identify all those categories before we think that, oh, this is, we push this subject forward, because in every aspect there is a person and a heartbeat and a breath that we all need to look after.
I have a 5-second thing to
Yes,
add.
5 seconds.
And
or maybe a
that
minute.
is very simple. So I was for 10 years the only Jew in my school. Staff, students, like 1,300 people, the only Jew. I would hope that teachers would still teach the Holocaust.
Yeah.
I would hope that we still talk about anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, racism, etc. Right? So perhaps one topic of conversation we need to have is that SOGI issues are not based on criminality, okay? Because Jewish used to be criminalized, right? And so you never taught about that because Jews and blacks and indigenous and people of color are criminals, right? So I think we have to be careful there, that we understand that even though the numbers might be, what they are, introduction to respect and human rights, that's a constant. That should never be removed.
I'm looking at the clock,
Yeah,
and
sorry.
we were gonna talk about something else, but I think we're gonna have another segment, which we'll do it right now.
Okay.
But thank you all very much for watching that, and I think you have had a very healthy debate in here. And if you do have questions to ask your teacher, set up a time, one-on-one, and bring it to the teacher's attention. Go talk, but find out what's happening in the school. And support your children, whatever choices they make, right? It's not like one way or the highway.
Exactly.
We are all very different. So I think it's the best thing is not stopping talking and working with these big placards and all that is not going to get anybody anywhere.
Communication is key.
Communication is the key here.
Yeah.
So all these parents, and thank you so much for watching us today, and we shall meet next week.
I understand how important it is to have a place called home, and it's frustrating using your hard-earned money on rent. Vic Prasad can make you a homeowner. Get pre-approved services provided to first-time buyers and new immigrants. You can qualify for mortgage even if you have bad credit. Call Vic Prasad now on 604-306-6647. Vic Prasad is associated with Craft Mortgages Canada Incorporated.
For any kind of visa-related services, contact Milky Way Immigration, a galaxy of opportunities located at Unit 209-9547 152 Street, Surrey, BC. They have licensed immigration consultants, placement officers, and LMIA experts to meet your immigration and recruitment needs. Book one-time free consultation either on Facebook or by calling 604-396-0005.